Welcome to Thrive Now, where we bring you motivation, inspiration, and education to grow yourself and grow your business.
Well, welcome to another episode of Thrive Now. And I have here actually somebody that I admire so much. And he's a friend of mine. Actually, I'm starting the show with interviewing all my friends.
Yes.
People who are just crushing it and doing amazing things out in the world. And I'm inspired by them, and I'm bringing them to you so you can learn from them and get inspired as well. So today, I have Ryan Bethencourt. He is the founder and CEO of Wild Earth.
Yes.
And so just give us a little introduction, who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm I would say a serial entrepreneur, a venture capital investor, and angel investor as well. Most recently, I'm now the CEO of Wild Earth. We're really looking at how do we sustainably feed billions of people and create alternative protein. So high quality, sustainable, animal-free protein to feed humanity. And that's our next quest. So we've raised some venture capital funding for that. And I'm kind of happy to talk with you a little bit more about how to raise money, how to build companies.
That's kind of like the intention for this episode. Is going to pick his brain about, A, should you raise money? B, if you are going to raise money, he'll give us some valuable information because you have helped how many companies?
I've helped over 70 companies, raise money. So I've actually invested
in some of them?
In over 70 companies.
Okay, wow.
And I've personally been involved in building about 4 companies in total.
If you're gonna roughly have to add, how much money have you helped raise for these companies total, roughly?
Yeah, total. So I'll give you an example of the market cap of all the companies that I've helped fund and build. The combined market cap is over $500 million of these companies.
So $500 million.
So about $500 million. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So I know you have helped raise over 70 companies.
Yeah.
Which ones are right now kind of doing really well and taking the world by surprise?
By storm. So my favorite is, and actually if you go on my Instagram, you see this really cool picture. Uma, the CEO of Memphis Meats, he actually was on the cover of Inc. magazine, and it basically said, can this CEO create a slaughterless world, right? So he's bringing forward essentially science fiction ideas about growing meat in bioreactors and breweries, right?
Wow.
Brewing cultured meat.
That's amazing.
Removing the need for the use of an animal.
Wow.
And he's made that a reality.
Wow.
Right?
So biotech, you keep talking a lot about biotech companies. That's predominantly what you are invested in, and that's where you kind of... The companies you work with.
I live, breathe, and eat.
Yes. I know. Yeah. So can you make it in simple terms? What is biotech? Because some people might be watching this episode like, what the heck is he talking about?
So biology is the technology, the science of life. And it's basically how do we understand who we are? How do we understand the food that we eat? How do we understand the world around us? And then actually take those insights and make our world or ourselves better, right? How do we cure diseases, or how do we make our food industries more sustainable?
And you said, so Memphis Meats is one of the companies that are kind of taking place. Some pretty famous people have invested in that company, haven't?
Yep. So Bill Gates and Richard Branson have invested in them, and also Cargill. Cargill actually is the most interesting one because Cargill, most people are not familiar with Cargill and who they are, but they basically supply all of our commodity foods, right? So they feed us.
They believe in the vision. They believe that things are going to change. So they're kind of like early adopters. They're like, look, we need to adopt. This is the future, basically.
Well, the CEO went on, I think it was like CNBC, the CEO of Cargill, talking about Memphis Meats, and basically said, in 30 years, we will no longer kill animals for food.
Wow.
Right? So this is the CEO of the world's largest food supply company, right? Commodity food supply company. And he sees the future, and the future is animal-free, essentially.
That is remarkable. So really, the reason I was so excited to bring you to this episode, to our show, is I know a lot of people that watch our show are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And some are small and they're just starting out, and maybe they never have thought about raising money.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I have learned, I haven't raised money from my company yet. I'm still considering.
Yeah.
Maybe you can convince me today.
Yep.
And show me the pros and cons. But if you look at like Dropbox, Google, Slack, Airbnb, Memphis Meats, or any other big company, you have to raise money. You have to scale and grow fast to take the marketplace by storm. So what are some of the indications or signs that somebody should raise money in the first place? How
Yep.
can you?
Great question. And let me just add something to that.
Yes,
So,
please.
So when you look at the the top companies in the S&P 500, 50% of those have been venture funded, right? And so when you look at that, we're talking about the Facebooks, the Apples, the Googles of the world, the Amazons of the world. They've been venture funded.
Yeah.
0.25% of all businesses are venture funded.
0.2. Okay.
0.25%. So
that's
it basically means if you don't raise venture funding, your chances of creating a huge, large, scalable business are very, very small, right? On the flip side is, and I think it's important to talk about businesses that are not venture businesses. Some of them can make people a lot of money, and they can provide a great lifestyle for someone, their family, and their team and their employees. But they aren't necessarily venture businesses. So the question is, what is a venture business, right? A venture business is a company that has a product that can grow and scale very quickly. It's transformative. Typically, it has some sort of moat. So protective moat, whether it's intellectual property or network advantage or technology advantage that protects it from competition.
Got it.
Right?
Got it.
Different to a restaurant, right? So as an example, a restaurant is not typically a venture business, and that's because even though you're the only one serving Thai food in Palo Alto, that is not the only player in that space. And not only that, it's not protectable. If you're really successful and there are lines out the door, another entrepreneur will see it and say, Thai is popular in Palo Alto, I'm going to start another Thai restaurant. And then your advantage is just basically gone, right? So there's two different ways. Is this a scalable venture business, or is this not? Is this something that you need to raise money for?
Got it.
Or something that you shouldn't raise venture money for?
Okay,
Yeah,
got it. So one of the companies that I really kind of been using lately a lot is called DoorDash.
Okay.
I looked it up, and I believe they have raised around 250 million.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, right?
It's a lot of money.
But at the same time, there's so much competition around now, the new Uber for food delivery, basically.
Yes,
So if you don't raise money, what it seems to me is just someone else is going to take the marketplace, and nobody will care. Nobody will want to talk to you because you're not big enough. Restaurants want to talk about the biggest, the best company out there. Because they don't want to work with like 10 apps, right? So that's one of the reasons why you want to raise money, so you can scale, you can grow, you can hire people to go out there and talk to restaurant owners. Is that correct?
No. So one of my favorite podcasts, which as there are a lot of entrepreneurs watching this, is Masters of Scale by Reid Hoffman. So I highly recommend it. Reid Hoffman talks about this all the time, and so do his guests. And these are some incredible entrepreneurs that have built and scaled companies. The advantage of building and scaling rapidly is speed is an advantage, because by the time your competitors figure out what you're doing, let's say you're DoorDash or whatever else, you have scaled so quickly that your advantage compared to them is massive. And you just keep reinforcing that, right? This is why when you look at ride-sharing companies like Uber and Lyft.
I was about to say that Uber wasn't the first. I think that Sidecar was first with Lyft. Sidecar is no longer in business.
No.
So they were able to raise. Is that correct? They were able to raise money and scale at a rapid rate.
Billions and billions of dollars, right? To really push themselves out in front of the marketplace. And so there are different theories around that, whether that's the right thing to do. But the reality of it is, in many cases, it works. And this is why some companies are able to raise billions of dollars, and some founders, sadly, are able to raise $0. Right? It's just
what's the reason for raising $0?
So $0 usually. Let's say we're talking, there's different types of investors. So when you're looking for investment, there's your friends and family. So
that's like they call the angel investors.
Yeah, kind of. I would call them pre-angel investors.
Pre-angel, okay.
Unless you have very wealthy family members, right? So these are people who believe in you regardless. They'll put money there even if they're going to lose it in many cases.
Got it.
And so that's really the first stage in raising money. Usually I don't recommend that you raise from friends and family, because if you lose their money, that's a big problem.
It's like all your relationships might be really
it'll damage your relationship. So the second level investor is really an angel investor. These are people who invest for various different reasons. Some of them for return on investment, some for ego, some because they just ideologically like what you're doing, right? And then third are VCs, venture capitalists. Venture capitalists have a very clear mission. And their mission is really to raise money to get a return on investment. They're looking for a 10x return on investment or more.
Wow.
10x, 100x, they want an outsized return from the money they put to work. And it's really important to understand where VCs, where people like myself, when I have my VC hat on, raise money. We raise money from what's called limited partners, other very wealthy people or funds that put the money in based on the concept that they're gonna pull significant returns out, right? And so this is why sometimes when a venture capitalist, when you go and pitch to a venture capitalist, you may have a great business, it may have revenue, right? But if and it may look great to you as a business, right? It might have $1 million in revenue a year.
Yeah.
But if a VC looks at it and says, actually, this is not a scalable business.
When you say scalable, that's like billions, like
billions.
You go big.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So for the most part, venture capitalists have kind of a rule of thumb. Unless you are building something that has the potential to become $1 billion company, it's just not interesting from an investment point of view. Because it actually doesn't move the needle for them as an investor. They put so much money to work, and many of the companies that they invest in blow up. And so they have to have home runs.
Got it.
And so most investors will only invest in companies that have the potential
To just go big, like
that
Uber.
have the potential to go big. Yeah,
Like Uber is the
because
biggest
many of the others don't.
Yeah.
Many go, like you're saying, Sidecar. Sidecar was also funded by venture capital. Now that the value of that investment is zero.
Yeah, failed.
So they have to make up the money that they lose
From other companies.
More so, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people that watch our show, and depends when they watch this show, could be like 5 years from now. Who knows? Our audience might change. But right now, I'm starting out. A lot of people that watch are, smaller business owners, people who are starting out, and they're considering, maybe not going like the vision is not $1 billion company.
Yeah.
The vision is maybe 10 million, 100 million in revenue a year.
Yeah.
And what would be your advice for them to have better chances to raise that money? What are some of the advice you could give them?
So first of all, really understand the type of business that you're building, right? Like understand you don't have to build like these business plans and complex financial models, but you need to understand the basics of your business. Like, why does this business matter? Why are your customers going to love your product or service? How are you going to make money? What are your margins? And then how do you make this a really scalable business where you have the potential for, if we're talking about venture capital investment, you have the potential to make, hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, right? At that point, you're in the territory of venture capital investment, because at a 10x valuation, you're at a $1 billion valuation with 100 million in revenue. And so it's really important to do that. So to start thinking first about the concepts and principles around how you build a business. The second thing is you have to put together what's called a pitch deck, right? Instead of putting together this huge, long, complicated business plan, you need to put together a pitch deck. And remember that a pitch deck, and you can look that up on the web, is basically just kind of like a PowerPoint with like your business in 10 to 30 slides.
Got it.
Right?
And you can Google this, guys. Google, look it up, pitch deck. I know you sent me a couple examples.
Sent you a
Guy
couple of
told me where to go.
examples.
Like I said again, I'm considering raising money for my company.
So SlideShare, by the way, is a great place to go. It's LinkedIn bought them.
Okay.
They have great examples of successful
SlideShare. Okay.
Yeah,
we'll put in resources in the bottom.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So it's great examples of pitch decks that have worked, including like Airbnb's original pitch deck and some other companies there as well. And so, it's something that it's really important to put a pitch deck together, because most venture capital investors just don't have the time to look through a really long, complicated business plan. And the reality of it is most venture capital investors know that most of the numbers that you put in there are a work of fiction. Right? Until you have a real sales, you can't really project, right?
So what would you say, be more kind of excited about the numbers and the future and the possibilities, or kind of keep it lower? What's your suggestion on that?
I think be realistic. And I know that's a hard thing to do, but if an investor, a potential investor, senses that you're making anything up, you're done.
Okay, wow.
Right? So if they're like, this person is clearly trying to deceive me on one area of a financial projection.
So it's all about trust, essentially.
It's all about trust.
Okay. They're going to give you money, they're going to...
Yeah. So one is, look, do they think your business is has the potential to be a huge business? That's number one. Then do they like you and your team, right? And do they trust you and your team, right? Because people invest in other people. And so these are really the two main things. And then of course, then eventually it starts to get into more like technical things. So if they like the business, they like the team, they like the potential of this business and where it's at right now, then it's, more technical things like what investment amount makes sense for them and for you. Are you being realistic in how much money you need to raise? Or are you being just crazy? It's like, I have an idea, it's worth $100 million, and I'm raising $10 million. I'm giving you this opportunity to invest $10 million into a $100 million idea. It doesn't work that way.
Got it.
There are conventions and standards around how much a company that is idea stage potentially could be reasonably worth. And it's a range. And you have to be realistic. So every interaction you have with a potential investor has to be realistic, honest, and trustworthy.
Nice. Well, I think that's one of the things we had a previous couple episodes ago, and one of the things he said, one of the things you'll learn over the years is just be brutally honest. The more honest you are, people are like shocked. It's so refreshing.
Yes.
It's like, hey, this is what it is. This is what I think, and they're like, even maybe it's not as exciting, but you're honest about it. They're like, you know what? I like you.
Yeah.
So, what are the let's say 3 biggest mistakes when the people make? You work with so many companies when they raise money, and you're like, I can't believe you did this. That jeopardized their. They
3 biggest mistakes.
They're basically.
So mistake number 1 is falling in love with yourself, your company, or your own pitch deck.
Okay.
Right. So you always have to remember that when you're pitching to someone, you're selling to someone. It's all about them, not about you. Right. So and I've seen this multiple times where founders, entrepreneurs. Basically are either, they basically just talk nonstop and don't give you a moment to like even ask questions or anything. It's just literally like
pitch.
This is why my company is so great. These are all my numbers. We're going to have $100 million in revenue tomorrow. This is going to be amazing. This is going to be, and then you're like, I have no idea how to assess this company. So when you walk in to meet with an investor, it's not about your agenda, it's about theirs, right? And so because you're selling, you should walk in and say, okay, great, look, I have a presentation, a PowerPoint, I sent it to you. Did you have a chance to see it? You see where they're at, your temperature check with people. That's a way to successfully do it. The other big mistake that founders often make is they get defensive, right? When an investor says, I don't believe you're gonna have $100 million in revenue in 2 days, the founder goes, I am. Right? And it's like, well, I don't believe based on the last 5 companies I've invested in this space.
It's like, I know a thing or two about this. Yeah.
And the founders argue with them. I've seen this, right? And so, if you start arguing with someone, how can you expect? You're done.
Yeah, you're
right?
done.
And it's okay to disagree.
Yeah, but right? How you handle it.
Yeah, it's okay to, how you handle it. It's okay to say, I hear you.
Yeah, or with all the respect,
I hear you. Yeah, and you might be right.
Exactly, but here's what I'm thinking.
Here's what I'm thinking.
Wow, that's the ego basically gets in the way.
Ego often gets in the way, and then the third mistake that founders make. Again, this is another part of not really listening or being aware of investors, is going in totally unprepared, which is basically just saying, not having a game plan. Like, what are you trying to get out of that meeting, right? It's unlikely you're going to walk out with a check.
Yeah.
Right? It's
process. Likely or unlikely? Unlikely, yeah.
Because they've just met you for the first time. Yeah. Right? How do they know who you are? How do they haven't built a relationship with you. Raising money is about building relationships and building trust. And so, they have to like you and they have to believe in the vision of your business, but then, they also have to think that this is someone that I could spend the next 5 to 10 years working with.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow. Powerful. So, that's about investing. I think you provided very good, I'm just enjoying myself.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate it.
And a lot of things, once I hear it, it makes common sense, but it's just so good to ego, right?
Yes.
Don't let your ego.
Don't let your ego, get in the way, yes.
Fantastic. So guys, even if you, watching the show and you don't need millions of dollars, you just want to go out and raise, let's say 50,000 or 100, the same rules apply.
Yes.
The same rules. And so pay attention to what he's saying. So now we're going to kind of get to your personal level, because I know you have achieved a lot of things,
Yes,
right?
yes,
and always want to figure out.
Things, yeah.
So how do you keep yourself motivated? So you've done so many different things. There's always, building your own company now, still helping a lot of other entrepreneurs. How do you stay motivated and focused?
That's a very hard thing to do. I think for all founders and entrepreneurs, I mean, we're driven to build, right? And so we see opportunities everywhere. Where there's problems, we see opportunities. So the important thing to basically say is, when you look at an opportunity, at least for me, to keep me focused, I won't do something unless I'm willing to say I'm gonna potentially spend the next 5 to 10 years if I'm successful doing this, right? And so that's really the way that I view things, and so therefore I don't get involved with things unless I'm willing to be focused. So with Wild Earth, it's a concept I've really been thinking about for the last 1 to 2 years, and in the end I ended up committing based on just my strong feeling that
That you should do this.
That I should do this,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't go away, right? It was something that I would think about at nights and weekends when I was laying in my bed and staring at the ceiling. It's like, I really need to do this soon, because this is important, I think, for me, and I think it's something that I can really give something to the world, right? And I think that's where you should be.
Yeah.
I think, as a founder and as a builder, you should really focus on something that will, if you never make money doing this, would you still spend the next 5 to 10 years doing this?
That's fantastic. Right? That's because something what I think Elon Musk said, even if you think you're going to fail, but you really, really believe in something, you should still give it a shot.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So fantastic. So one of the things I always ask people on the show, and often I start with this question, but I'm going to towards the end now. What does it mean to you, Ryan Bethencourt? What does it mean to you living a thriving life? What does it mean? A couple sentences.
Thriving is the ability to pursue my passions. Right. I think that having experienced poverty, when I was younger, having had many challenges many entrepreneurs often do, and in fact, those of us who are entrepreneurs are often overrepresented as people that have had challenges in their lives. We get used to being sluggers and like pushing through the challenges, but I'm thankful every day that I have the ability to pursue my passions today, and so I would say that that's it.
Beautiful. Yeah. So now these few questions, don't think too much. Whatever comes to your mind, just say it.
Yeah.
Who's the most inspiring person in your life and why?
Most inspiring person in my life? Well, I mean, from a personal perspective, I'll give you two examples. So from a personal perspective, my mother, right?
Okay.
My mother raised my sister and I, and actually my stepfather as well. I really look up to both of them. Even through challenging situations. From a business perspective, I actually really admire Andy Grove. So he was the founding CEO of Intel. He actually escaped the Nazi concentration camps.
Wow.
When he was a child, came to the U.S., built Intel.
Wow.
And was an incredible mind, an incredible visionary, and an incredible competitor. He almost single-handedly created the microchip market in the United States.
Amazing.
Yeah. So he's someone I really admire. Yeah. From a business perspective.
What is the most inspiring quote that you ever read or comes to your mind?
It just immediately comes to mind.
Yeah.
My favorite quote is this quote where basically, and I don't know who actually said it, but it's. Fate whispers to the warrior, the storm is coming. And the warrior says, I am the storm.
Oh.
Right?
What does that quote means to you?
It's very powerful because, to me, it's like the world is full of like lots of like chaos and moving parts and like scary things and exciting things and depressing things, and it can be very destabilizing sometimes, especially when you work in the deep technology space. You never know where a new competitor is going to emerge, or where a risk that you've taken, a personal risk with your own finances, is literally going to bankrupt you totally, right? And it's just this powerful statement that it's okay, the storm is coming, but I am the storm. I will create out of nothing if I have to.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. What's the one book every person should read in your opinion?
One book every person should read. Okay, so I'll give you. I like to do things different. So I'll give you two books.
Sure.
So one of them is from a business perspective. We've got a lot of entrepreneurs here.
Yeah.
I really love Ray Dalio's book, Principles. So
That's the title, Principles?
That's the title.
Okay.
Ray Dalio talks about building Bridgewater, which is actually the largest private equity firm in the world. I think he has around $200 billion under management. He talks about his personal stories, about how he built this finance firm, bankrupted himself and it twice, and started to learn that actually the financial markets are very dangerous places. How do I hedge myself? And he talks about how he used transcendental meditation to stabilize his mind, to view things from a higher perspective, and then how he came up with principles for himself, both for work and for his personal life. And I find that really interesting. It's like an operating code. It's higher principles that you operate.
I gotta
under.
check it out. It sounds really, really interesting.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it or never.
Highly recommend it.
Okay.
You know, someone who literally spent time in the trenches and developed his own operating code
That's
to
amazing.
survive in the trenches.
amazing.
And then the second one, just to inspire the mind.
Yeah.
And actually soon probably people will be seeing the TV series,
Yeah.
but it's called Altered Carbon. It's
Okay.
a book I read about a decade ago.
Okay.
And it talks about a future in which humans can move between bodies and minds. And so it's using really a neural stack, which basically means you can basically directly interconnect with the brain, and then regrowing and building entire bodies, right? Industries of the future that are going to exist. And so I highly recommend that entrepreneurs think about not just their businesses, but to dream a bit as well, to inspire them on the future that they can create.
Beautiful. So before we go, I always say, we're not here to entertain. We are here to inspire to take action. And so what is it? Let's summarize. It's one thing for our audience if they watched or listened on podcasts, whatever you're consuming this content. What's the one action step, like for them to go on right now and implement one thing that would contribute either to their life or their business?
I would say feel the fear and do it anyway, right? The act of creation is scary, right? It's scary for multiple reasons. And so I would say feel that fear and do it. Take that first step. You're not ready.
Whatever that is.
Yeah, whatever.
What
You
is-
will never be ready. Here's the
Yeah.
secret. You will never be ready, right? Your startup will never be perfect. Your life will never be perfect, right? Just start, even though it's scary. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I want to say thank you so much, Ryan.
Thank you,
I
Ryan.
admire you. I appreciate you for all the things that you do. You are a big visionary, and often your ideas, to be honest, it's over my head. When you talk about some of the things or some of the companies you work with.
Yeah.
But that's the exciting thing, that people bring these exciting ideas and visions, and you're somebody that creates the future, basically.
Thank you, Ryan.
I admire and appreciate you. So thanks so much, guys, for watching. We appreciate you for tuning in. And if you haven't subscribed to our show, please be sure to subscribe, whether you're on a podcast or on YouTube or both.
Yeah.
I appreciate you more than you know. Comment below. Let us know if you have any questions or thoughts or anything you have. Engage in this community. We appreciate you, and we'll see you in our next episode.
And this guy is awesome.
Thank you so much. All right, bye, guys.
Bye.